we are, Brattleboro's Community Talk Show. I'm Wendy O'Connell, and today on our show we have Addy Bateman. Addy is 15 and a sophomore at Putney School. She started acting and singing when she was 3 years old, and she's with us today, and she's going to talk about what she's doing, what she's up to, and what she's thinking about. So welcome, Addy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on the show. It's really fun to have teens on the show to hear what's happening in your world. You went K through 7, almost 7, at Dummerston Public School.
Yeah, I did.
Yep, and then spent a little time at the grammar school, and now you're at Putney. So you've kind of a range of public and private. Yeah. How is that for you?
It was good. I'm glad that I made all the choices that I did, and I think ultimately, even though it was kind of bumpy sometimes along the way, I'm happy where I am now, both in terms of my education and like socially and just in terms of being comfortable. Which is nice.
And Dummerston is almost like a neighborhood school, you know, you knew those kids.
I did. I grew up with them.
Yeah, and are they still friends?
I haven't talked to a lot of them in a while, but I mean, they're always going to be a part of my life.
Yes,
I hope. I'm guessing, because it did kind of shape who I was going to school with the same group of people for, you know, since I was 5 to 12.
Being at Putney, you're definitely in a more diverse group of kids, and you're seeing much more diversity. And I think that you're also, there's also a lot of support for that. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, and there could be more representation and more support, but it definitely, there's a lot more diversity culturally and in terms of sexuality and gender identity, a lot more than I'd experienced previously at my other schools, and that's been really, really great, I think, and I've definitely learned a lot that I didn't know before about how to be a good ally, which has been lovely to learn about because I mean, looking back, I don't think I knew a lot, and I guess it's not like I knew nothing, but I feel so much more aware now, and of course there's always more for me to learn, I think, but I have the opportunity to learn about that and be in the midst of that.
That's right, and there's a lot of support for that as well. I know that there are a lot of different groups. And in terms of that, one of the questions I was thinking about is, you know, for secondary education, high school, no matter where you're going, there's so many things that you're going through at that age, for one thing. And I think now in our culture, there's so many things that are coming up for kids to really look at, whether it's sexuality, drugs, brain health. And I'm wondering how you feel about the education that you're getting, the information that you're getting about those things.
To a certain extent, we have sex ed. I mean, I think at this point, the majority of us know the basics. Like now, I think what we should be having more of is talks about which we do at Putney actually. Like last year, the only sex ed that we had, besides working with cows and cow genetics, which we did do. We tried to pair some cows together to make what's the word? Like the ideal heifer. Which, thinking back, is something I would only ever do my freshman year at Putney. But the human sex ed classes that we had were about making good choices and about being safe and about less so just the physicality of it all, but more about the mental part of it, which I think is good, because I did not have much of that at my old school, so I don't know, it seems far away. I can't really remember much about it.
It's also probably a little bit about self-advocacy and all these things as well. You know, when it comes to
especially now,
and drugs and transgendering and all of that. When I mentioned brain health, you know, I think that you're getting secondary schools, you get such a wide range of education. And I'm wondering if they touch on brain health, if they talk about a lot of things that all kinds of teenagers are going through, depression and identifying if they're on the spectrum, if they have learning differences, suicide, all of that. Do you get any of that information?
We've talked a little bit about it in my classes, but mainly how I got information about that last year was because we did in one of my classes a mental health project. I did with a friend of mine, and I learned we decided. Well, it was a social activism project, and we decided to send her ours on mental health and mental health awareness. And I did learn a lot about that by studying it, because it was for we have trimesters at the Putney School instead of semesters, and we focused about half of our winter trimester on doing that. And it was really informative. I'm really glad I did it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And was it, do you think it made you more able to recognize those things in your friends or in yourself, or just in general, as far as understanding what people go through?
If my friends come to me and talk to me about their mental state, I mean, I guess learning about that has made me probably more sympathetic to things that I may not be experiencing myself, and a little more aware of why that might be happening and what's going on, which has been good.
I think just a general awareness makes a really big difference to realize
definitely.
that kids are going through all kinds of different things all the time.
Yeah, and I think it's good for everyone to have an awareness. I had a base knowledge awareness because I struggle with mental health. I struggle with anxiety. So I've been seeing someone since I was really young. I've been taking a small dosage of medication for far back. And I've always kind of been clued in to the world of mental health, but there are a lot of other issues that I wouldn't personally know, and it was really good to learn about them and learn, you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely, and that you can get help.
Yeah,
help is available.
And the retreat, it's amazing that we have such a great resource right here. And I did talk to someone from the retreat when I was doing that project last year about their Stand Up to Stigma campaign, which is great. It's about erasing stigma around mental health, mental health issues, and kind of changing the general outlook on that, which is good.
Yeah, and looking at it more as a health situation than it is as an aberrant.
I mean, it really is. Mental health is very similar to physical health, and you can get treatment, you can get help for it.
And that awareness and that understanding is a really big deal, and I think if more people could adopt that, it would make a huge difference, because we're seeing that, everywhere, one stigma or another. What's your most interesting class? What are you most engaged in at school?
Right now, my class that I'm most engaged in would probably be a class called Say What You Mean, which is
Say What You Mean?
Say What You Mean, yeah, which is a writing class. It's for my English credit. It's actually a senior elective, but because I'm going abroad in the spring to Morocco, my schedule was a little crazy, and I had to switch it around a bit, and I ended up getting my English credit by being in this class, the senior elective, and actually a few other sophomores are in it too. And it's been really, really great. I love the teacher, I love the dynamic in the class, and I think it's a really interesting class, and it has helped me a lot, and I enjoy writing, so.
Yeah, and is that a newfound?
I mean, I always knew that I enjoyed it, but, and I still don't, and I haven't much in the past. I haven't done my own writing projects outside of school. Just I have done a bit. I've written a bit for the sake of writing, but I think the majority of the work that I've produced has been for school, but I have enjoyed doing it. And I think that's kind of part of the fun. When you have limits, it kind of makes it easier to be creative.
Yeah.
So having writing assignments as school projects has almost made it easier to know what to write about and be able to get to focus and get my thoughts out because there's a smaller.
Yeah. There's a structure around it. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And I do think it makes a difference, as in your acting. If you love to act, that's great, but it's good to have a play, right? To be part of a play, to follow a script. It's sort of the same kind of thing. Yeah. And so you've been acting for quite a while.
Yes.
And how do you, what is it about acting that you like?
I wouldn't say that there's like a specific element. I mean, I think it's fun to explore literally getting to be another person. Like you get to portray another person, you get to become another person. But I also think it's really interesting because as you're, acting under the guise of another person, you're also, like I found in every character that I've been, no matter how seemingly similar or different it is to how I picture myself, I've been able to relate myself to the character every time. And that usually happens at the end. That doesn't just happen for me. Yeah. But I think it's fun. I think it's fun to bring myself into other characters. Yeah. And, there is the base level of, I just think it's fun to perform. And I like to sing and I like to act and I like to dance. Yeah. And it's fun to put that out there if it's something I feel proud of doing, which sometimes I do, sometimes. And then I like to put it out there, I guess.
And you're working with a group of people too, right? Which
yeah,
I would think
which is great. It's also, it's really fun. Like the backstage dynamic is usually fun, and it's great because some of my closest friends are also, involved. Yeah. So it's really nice. It's a bonding experience with the other people that are involved. Yeah. Which is lovely.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, it is. It is, and it's an experience that you don't get in a lot of different ways.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you think that's something you'll follow?
I don't know. I hope.
That's a good answer.
I used to be so sure that was what I was going to do. When I was 9, I remember being like, I'm going to go to Juilliard, and I'm going to graduate, and then go on to be on Broadway, and raise my kids to also sing. And I remember I was like, I knew what I wanted to do. But just in the past few-ish years, mainly over the last year, because I didn't do as much theater. I'm not currently doing as much theater at Putney, and I did it mainly in the summer at the New England Youth Theater. I have been doing less of acting and singing. Well, I still train at Putney vocally, but doing less acting made it possible for me to explore doing other things that I also enjoyed. And now I couldn't tell you if that's something I'm gonna pursue, because I don't know. Right. I don't know. And I think it would definitely be a fun career path. I think lots of things could be fun.
And that, I think everything informs everything else too. I mean, you started acting, so you know that, but you're broadening now, and you're learning all these other things that that you're interested in as well. Can you imagine what you might be doing in 4 or 5 years?
I mean, probably still theater. Definitely still music. Like, I think whatever I end up doing, it may not incorporate singing, but I would like to think that I will always be singing. So even if I'm working in a cubicle or in animal sciences, I mean, whatever I choose to do, I hope that in some way I'll still have time or I'll be able to incorporate singing into it. So.
How does singing make you feel?
I think it's fun, and it makes me happy to sing, which is something. I mean, you could ask my family. Something that I do when I'm like in a good mood. Like I'll just bop around my house like humming. It's usually really high pitched, but I do. it makes me happy.
Yeah.
It makes me happy to sing. And it's something I feel like I can do relatively well sometimes, which is also a nice feeling, to feel like you can be good at something.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. And enjoy it at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And does it make a difference if you're singing alone or singing with people?
Yes, definitely. Well, it depends on the setting. If I'm singing with people that I may not have the best relationship with, I actually haven't experienced that. I usually have gotten along with the people that I've worked with in theater for the most part. But I could imagine that singing in a situation where I'm not comfortable, or singing in a situation where it doesn't sound good, wouldn't be as fun as singing in an all-around positive situation, which I think for the most part it has been,
Yeah,
which
in
is
your
nice.
experience. So, Addy, I'd love to know how you feel about screens. I know that you've grown up with them, and I'm sure your relationship to them has changed over the years.
Yeah.
But what's your take these days?
I definitely think that screens are kind of toxic, and I don't only mean literally. I mean, I know that they're not great. They're not great for development to a certain extent. But I think that a lot of the time they get in the way of experiencing life in real time. Like, it bothers me when I see people at a concert or, with friends and you're just on their phone, kind of living through that. And that I definitely think is problematic, just the excessive usage with people on screens, especially my generation. But that said, I'm also not exempt from that. Like, I definitely use my phone a lot. I use my computer a lot. I watch programming. I text my friends. And, I think it's like a love-hate relationship for me, because I definitely use them all the time, and I'm glad that I have them. But I also think that I might be happier if I didn't have them, but I do. So it's like, it's not like I could just, like, they're gonna be, like, I kind of need them for school. And I like to keep in touch socially. I'm a very social person.
Well, so a lot of it, I think, is about balance, like a lot of these other things.
Which is a very fine line, because it's...
And it's tricky,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's hard. I know that you've traveled a bit, and I know that you spent a little time in Australia. Is there any one story that stands out for you in Australia?
There was this one time when I was there with another family, friends of ours, and we all went to this place called the Grampians. It was like a nature preserve, and when we got there, it just so happened that while we were there, it was like this thing that happened like every 75 years, which was a locust plague. Locusts, if you don't know, they're like big grasshoppers. And when we got there, by plague, I don't just mean like, oh, there were a lot. Like, it was insane. They were everywhere. They covered everything. They were all over the grill of the car, and the windshield was just splattered with them, which is kind of gross. But but it was also really interesting. Now I think if I went back, I would be grossed out. I wouldn't really super want to go outside. But I can kind of remember, even though it was like 8 years ago, I can kind of remember I would just go outside with my arms stretched out and my hands open, and I would run, and they would they would be hitting me.
Oh my gosh.
And I would just catch them in my hands.
Wow.
And I have a few very concrete memories of that, and there are some videos. It was pretty fun.
Pretty intense.
It was intense.
And you were young enough so that it was fun, probably.
It was fun.
Here's a question for you, Addy. Actually, two questions. And I'm not sure, it might be a little much, but what most concerns you about the world these days? What's sort of like something that you think about?
Oh, wow. I mean, there are definitely a lot of problems, but I think right now, like currently right now, because of everything that's been going on in this past few weeks with Kavanaugh and all the talk about sexual assault, that's probably one of the main issues that I'm concerned about right now. It's just how screwed up it really is.
It's really right in front of us now.
Which, yeah, it really is. The fact that some of the men that are in literally the highest power that they can be in are accused of violating people in a sexually assaulting people. That's a big problem. I think that's pretty concerning to me.
Yes, and I think it's right in the front for all of us right now too. And so the other side of that coin is, what are you most optimistic about?
I'm optimistic about, as much as there are some problematic things about my generation, but I think overall I'm proud of how open a lot of us are and how we're bringing forth this idea of equality and all the stuff about erasing, like bringing forth the idea of gender identity and you know what I mean by equality, just equality in terms of race, sexuality, gender identity, like all of that stuff, which is new and is definitely, I think, being spearheaded by people of my generation, which I think is pretty cool.
I think it's really
and
exciting.
I'm optimistic about that, and
That's
I definitely
great.
do have hopes that we'll get farther and
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Because the energy is there, and it's a powerful force. It's a very powerful force. So yeah, it's very exciting. I agree with you. One last question is, you've done a bit of traveling, and when you come back here to Brattleboro, what's that like for you?
I mean, I think it's nice. I've never been away for super long. But I think when I get back, it's really nice, of course, to see my friends and my family. But, I mean, I grew up here, so it's the whole Brattleboro, Putney, Dummerston, I kind of group it all together because it's a small. But coming back, I think, I've never been sad to be back. I think it's nice, and I generally like this community and this, the place that I've grown up.
Yeah.
And, I'm eager to try new things. At some point, I do want to move away, obviously. I don't know, actually, not obviously. That's not obvious. Some people probably want to stay for their whole lives. I want to discover new things.
Yeah.
But I think it's nice. And maybe I'll talk to you more about it, because as I said, I am going abroad. I'm going to Morocco this coming spring trimester, which is crazy. Crazy. It hasn't really sunk in yet.
Yeah.
But that's going to be probably the most different place that I've ever been. And I'll be there for a long time.
Yeah.
And then it'll probably be more apparent to me when I get back what I've missed.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
So.
And coming back home.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Addy, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
This has been wonderful.
Yeah,
Thanks
it was
for
really
talking,
nice.
and thanks for giving us a window in.
Yeah.
Thanks to all of you for tuning in today. We had a great time with Addy Bateman here. And tune in next week. We will have another show for you.